A couple of years ago, one of the pioneers of the modern day flat earth movement, Eric Dubé, published a booklet, 200 Proofs Earth is Not a Spinning Ball. Since then, flat earthers claim they have more than 200 proofs that the earth is flat. In this video, we will take an impartial look at these 200 flat earth proofs and try to distill the essence of them and work out what, if anything, is actually proven or disproven. In reality, many of these 200 proofs are different examples of the same thing. When the duplicated proofs are grouped together, it becomes 34 proofs that the earth is flat. One of the most common proofs given by flat earthers is the horizon always appears perfectly flat, 360 degrees around the observer, regardless of altitude. But this is exactly what we would expect to see on either a globe or a flat earth. Firstly, we have to consider the earth is very large and we can only see a short distance, typically 10 to 20 miles, but sometimes more. So within the small distance we can see, the curve of a globe earth would be so slight that it would appear effectively flat. As far as altitude is concerned, we cannot go very high. Looking out an airplane window 10 miles above a globe, almost 8,000 miles across, does not change your view of the horizon significantly at all. Still, even if you are standing on a relatively small globe, you may see the horizon drop, but it would be flat all the way around, 360 degrees. This is because if you are standing on a point on a globe, the horizon all around you will be at the same distance, and every point on the horizon will have dropped by the same amount. So there is no curve to see, even if you are standing on a small globe. So this is absolutely false to say because the horizon is flat, the earth is flat. It is not at all proof that the earth is flat. You'd not see a curved horizon, even if the earth was a globe much smaller than what we presume it is. The other most common proof presented by flat earthers is the visibility of distant objects that should be hidden behind the curve of the globe earth. They say, we can see too far, therefore the earth is flat. In the 200 proofs the earth is flat, more than 40 of these proofs are different examples of being able to see distant objects which on a globe will be hidden from view. There is certainly some substance here. Flat earthers have given so many examples of being able to see distant objects which should be hidden behind the curve on a globe with a diameter of 7,926 miles. This is an apparent contradiction to the globe model, but not proof that the earth is flat. As we have mentioned in a previous video, our view of the stars in the sky is adjusted as we move around the earth in a way which is consistent with us moving around the globe. For example, the pole star is directly overhead at the North Pole, but at the horizon at the equator, and then below the equator, it will be hidden behind the curve of the earth. So distant objects are being hidden by what would be reasonable to consider is the curve of the earth. However, it does appear that, in some cases at least, distant objects are not hidden quickly enough, according to our current understanding of the globe earth. There are also many optical effects that come into play when looking at objects in the distance, which do not seem to be currently fully understood. So it may be that some optical effect is causing objects to become visible when they are in reality actually hidden behind the curve of the globe. In any case, this is certainly an area for serious research and does point to an apparent contradiction in the globe Earth model, but does not prove the Earth is flat.
Muir State Park. This is from Joshua Nowicki, and what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline.
There are 10 proofs similar to surveyors, engineers and architects are never required to factor the supposed curvature of the Earth into their projects. The idea of this flat Earth proof is that if the Earth was a globe and an engineer was designing a 100-mile stretch of a railway line, for example, he would have to take into account the curvature of the Earth, because the curve of the Earth will add about 8 feet each mile. So over 100 miles, he'll need an extra 800 feet of railway track, and will have to take this curve into consideration in his calculations. But seeing engineers never take this into account, that proves the Earth is flat. However, this is a false argument. If an engineer wants to build a railway track, he'll measure the actual distance over the land. You can drive your car, for example, over that 100-mile stretch and check the mileage you have covered, and that will measure the actual distance around the curve, if it is curved, or along the flat plane, if it is flat. So this is not proof of the Earth being flat. Engineers will measure the actual distance. They do not have to consider the curvature of the Earth, because if it is curved, they are measuring the distance around the curve. Flat earthers will always tell you that because the aeroplane pilots don't adjust their courses for the curve of the Earth, that proves the Earth is flat. But this is totally incorrect. Airline pilots have an altimeter that measures their distance from the surface of the Earth. So they do adjust their courses to keep the plane at a fixed altitude. So by adjusting the course to keep the plane at a certain altitude, they're adjusting for the curve of the Earth. Also, this altimeter, also known as a gyroscope, has a horizontal indicator which shows the orientation of the plane relative to the Earth's horizon. So to keep on course, they adjust the plane's direction to keep the horizon indicator and the altimeter horizontal and in the center. So what they are doing is constantly adjusting the course of the plane to keep it at a certain height above the Earth and to keep it pointing at the horizon. Meaning if the Earth is a globe, they'll be automatically travelling around the curve. So this is not proof that the Earth is flat.
G'day guys.
How you going?
Just a fellow PPL,
Oh yes.
you know,
Mike.
but yeah. Casey, how are you, mate?
Nice to meet you.
Pleased to meet you guys.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I've been flying
Yeah.
and I've come to the conclusion
Yeah.
there is no curvature. I never allow for curvature. There's no way there's curvature. We're round and flat, aren't we?
Definitely.
We are, aren't we?
Flat as a
Thank
pancake,
you,
mate.
sir.
Flat as a pancake.
And the outer ring is south,
Yeah.
and so north must be in the middle, correct?
Possibly.
That
Yeah.
would be the only way that a
Yeah.
magnetic compass works on a flat plane.
Might be onto something there.
Yeah,
Might be
but
onto something.
you're not having me on. We
No,
are.
I'm having you
We're
on.
round and flat,
Flat
aren't
as a
we?
pancake, mate. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you,
No
man.
worries.
You made my
Only
day.
the people at Jetstar know that.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, well,
There you
you know,
go.
I tell it.
Flat earthers quote numerous scientific experiments that fail to prove the Earth is moving, including Airy's failure, which they claim proves that the stars move relative to a stationary Earth and not the other way around, and the Michelson-Morley and Sojourner experiments, which attempted to measure the change in speed of light due to Earth's assumed motion through space. After measuring in every possible different direction in various locations, they failed to detect any significant change. There may be some substance here, as it does seem scientists have failed with experiments attempting to measure the movement of the Earth. Again, this is not proof the Earth is flat, but it may suggest the possibility of an error in the globe Earth model in relation to the motion of the Earth. They've also given us 6 proofs of scientific experiments failing to detect the motion of the Earth, presumed by the globe model. Then they give us 5 proofs stating that our observations of the stars are not consistent with the different movements of the Earth, Sun and our galaxy, supposed by the globe Earth model. For example, in the globe Earth model, it is presumed the Earth will be on the other side of the Sun, almost 200 million miles away in 6 months' time. So flat earthers presume if we move 200 million miles, our change in location should be measurable by the positions of the stars in the sky. Of course, the answer from science will be that the stars are light years away and that 200 million miles is insufficient for us to see any difference. So there are a number of proofs similar to this, stating that our view of the stars should be affected by the presumed movements of the Earth in space, but our view of the stars remains exactly the same. Therefore, they conclude that the Earth is flat. Again, this is not actually proof the Earth is flat. It may point to a discrepancy in the globe model, but scientists will say whatever movements the Earth is making are insignificant in comparison to the vast distances to the stars. They give us another 17 different examples of not being able to detect the movement of the Earth, including if Earth were truly constantly spinning eastwards at over 1,000 miles per hour, vertically fired cannonballs and other projectiles should fall significantly due west. So flat earthers are presuming that when an object leaves the spinning Earth, it should stop spinning, which is false, of course. If an object is moving in a particular direction with the spin of the Earth and you throw it into the air, it will continue moving in the direction it was originally moving and will also move in the direction you throw it. For example, if you're on a train, you can throw a ball in the direction the train is moving, or you can throw it the other way. You can throw it the same distance in both directions, and the movement of the train is irrelevant because you, the train, the ball, and everything else is moving with the train. The movement of the train becomes your frame of reference, and everything can move independently in its usual way within the train. So in the globe Earth model, the Earth and the atmosphere and all the objects on the Earth are moving with the Earth. So this is the frame of reference, and within that frame of reference, everything will move in the ordinary way we would expect it to. So all of these flat Earth proofs are invalid, not recognizing that objects within a particular frame of reference have movements that are independent and not affected by the movement of the frame of reference itself. Flat Earthers give us 11 proofs pointing out the inconsistencies and magic properties believers in the globe invest in gravity. Presumably, according to the globe Earth model, the frame of reference, including the Earth, everything on it, the atmosphere, and everything in the atmosphere, is being held together and being spun around with the Earth by the force of gravity. Flat Earthers find this difficult to believe. Examples of flat Earth proofs include: if gravity is credited with being a force strong enough to hold the world's oceans, buildings, people and atmosphere stuck to the surface of a rapidly spinning ball, then it is impossible for gravity to also simultaneously be weak enough to allow little birds, bugs, and planes to take off and travel freely, unabated in any direction. And if gravity is credited with being a force strong enough to curb the massive expanses of oceans around a globular Earth, it would be impossible for fish and other creatures to swim through such forcefully held water. This is explainable again by the train example. You could have little birds flying around, bugs crawling around. You could even fly your drone inside the train carriage, travelling at 60 miles an hour, and they could all move around exactly as if the train was stationary due to sharing the frame of reference of the moving train. Of course, this only works if there is no acceleration, and with the Earth rotating and spinning, that should cause acceleration, which should be measurable, but so far it has not been measured. So it is true that gravity is a somewhat fantastical concept, and flat earthers choose not to believe in gravity, considering it a concept invented by globe earthers to magically explain things they could not otherwise explain. Instead of gravity, flat earthers prefer to believe in density and buoyancy. They explain, it is a fact that objects placed in denser mediums rise up, while objects placed in less dense mediums sink down. So they think the reason we fall to the ground is because our bodies are more dense than air. On the other hand, they believe the reason a balloon filled with helium rises up into the sky is because it is lighter than the air. So scientists will agree that the balloon filled with helium rises up because it is more buoyant than the air. But they argue we fall to the ground because of the force of gravity, not because we are heavier than the air. So there appears to be scope for further research into the nature of gravity and buoyancy. This is again, however, not proof that the Earth is flat. Whatever is happening, be it caused by gravity or buoyancy, it would happen on both a globe or flat Earth. However, when one studies gravity, there does appear to be a fantastical and arbitrary nature assigned to it by science. There are 13 flat Earth proofs related to NASA faking space. All flat earthers at least believe NASA has presented us with fake pictures of the globe Earth. NASA only claimed to have one real photograph of the Earth from space, the famous blue marble, which we have all seen millions of times, plus a couple of Earth-rising pictures from the moon. All other NASA Earth photos are openly admitted to being created in Photoshop by combining images and data from various low Earth orbit satellites and pasting it onto a globe. So it is because of these globe Earth photos that flat earthers are very keen to prove the fakery of NASA. It is not the purpose of Flat Earth Facts to discuss the fakery of NASA, but there is plenty of information available on this elsewhere. But in any case, NASA producing fake globe images of the Earth does not prove the Earth is flat, but it would certainly help to prove that we have no evidence the Earth is a globe. There are 8 flat Earth proofs stating that distances in the southern hemisphere prove the Earth is flat. The idea is, if the Earth was flat, the distances south of the equator for a particular latitude will be greater than for the corresponding latitude north of the equator. There may be some truth in this. I have done some personal calculations which did seem to indicate distances in the south were greater than in the north, and also calculated a circumference of the Earth in places in Australia greater than that at the equator. But this is only preliminary, has not been verified, and is not at all confirmed. But we do have scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson saying the Earth is pear-shaped, which would mean he is confirming that it is actually bigger in the southern hemisphere than in the northern hemisphere. So it may be true, but from my measurements at least, it is not big enough to make it flat, but pear-shaped is a possibility. Still, it requires research, and this is not proof the Earth is flat. There are 6 proofs claiming the non-existence of direct southern hemisphere flights prove the Earth is flat. But this is totally incorrect. These southern hemisphere flights do exist, and I have personally flown between Auckland and Buenos Aires and have another video documenting this. There are 7 proofs claiming differences in climate in the northern and southern hemispheres prove the Earth is flat. For example, comparing Antarctica, the coldest place on Earth with virtually no life, with Iceland, which has a relatively mild climate and many native plants and abundant animal life. So this is interesting. What is the reason for the big difference? As if the Earth is a globe, they should have similar climates. However, again, this is not proof the Earth is flat. There are 3 proofs claiming no midnight sun in Antarctica proves the Earth is flat. But there is midnight sun in Antarctica, as I have proven in a different video. So this is totally incorrect. They give us many other proofs, none of which actually prove the Earth is flat. Too many to go through here. However, I have covered the main ones. So the summary is, out of the list of 200 proofs that the Earth is flat, there is not a single proof that the Earth is flat. There are a few valid questions and challenges to various aspects of the globe Earth model, a reasonable questioning of the magic of gravity and many aspects of NASA, but certainly no proof that the Earth is flat.